My mother truly scared me today. Written by suchaCoffeeCat. I still have yet to regain my breath, but I'll do my best to be cohesive. I just had a freaky day, and I'm not sure what to even make of it, but I guess I'll start off with when I got home earlier today. Here goes. It took me an hour to scrub myself clean in the shower. I couldn't believe all the places the dirt had gotten to. There were even a few places I had to give up trying to clean. It was like it was embedded in my skin. My clothes were filthy too, of course, so I wrapped myself in a towel and slipped out of the small bathroom. The hard wood was cold under my bare feet, still hot and swollen from the shower. I made my way down the hall and into my bedroom, quietly shutting the door behind me. The towel had already lost its warmth, so I dropped it in the doorway and walked over to my closet. There were lots of empty hangers where my clothes usually hung. My mom had probably just gone on one of her rampages and thrown them all in the laundry. She really went crazy about dust, the germaphobe that she was. She'd lose her shit when she saw the button down I'd just ruined. I chuckled, looking around the room for something to wear. There were boxes I didn't recognize on the floor, and my bed was made. I certainly hadn't left it that way, but I wasn't complaining. If she thought she was getting rid of my stuff, though, she had another thing coming. I stacked a few of the boxes to get them out of the way, and found a small pile of dirty clothes under the bed. Aha! I cheered to myself, pulling the pile out and inspecting each of them. Nothing smelled too bad to wear, so I slipped into an old tee and my favorite sweatpants. I almost left the towel on the floor, but thought better of it. I was so tired, and I did not want to fight today. So I picked it up and walked it to the linen closet, tossing it in the communal laundry basket. Lazily, I made my way to the kitchen. I was starving, and the walk home had me craving comfort food. Mashed potatoes or barbecue chips or anything savory and filling, honestly. I felt like a gas tank running on empty. I wrenched open the door to the pantry, mouth already watering. As I stood there, staring at numerous chip bags and boxes of crackers, I heard a car door shut outside. After that, the front door squeaked open and a pair of heels made a few initial clacks on the wooden floor. I briefly heard the jingle of keys leave the deadbolt. "Hey, Ma, is that you?" I called out, perusing the unfamiliar snacks in front of me. Seriously, had she gone on another food craze and tossed all of my food too? She must have been off her medication or something. I made a mental note to call her therapist next time I had a moment. I didn't hear any following footsteps or a response, just one quiet thud, like a light leather bag on wood. Maybe she didn't hear me, but why was she still standing in the doorway? Something seemed off. Frowning, I closed the pantry and shuffled over toward the living room. "Ma, you good?" I asked, furrowing my eyebrows in concern. If she really was off her medication, we were in for a rough night. When she got into one of her fits, there was no reasoning with her. I rounded the corner cautiously, wringing my chafing hands. The thick oak door was wide open. My mother stood in the doorway, one manicured hand lingering on the handle and the other over her mouth. Her pristine white designer purse was on the floor by her feet. I could never remember the brand. I was terrible with names and stuff. She always insisted it was something to be proud of, though. Her cherry red nails sharply contrasted her pale skin, currently with an almost gray tint. She had a wild, grief-stricken look in her eyes. I felt my stomach drop in fear. "Did something happen at work?" I asked her, sliding my feet forward a few steps. I didn't want to move too quickly. She looked like she could puke in place or shoot me any second. "Please, Ma, you're scaring me." Her wild green eyes welled with tears, one spilling over before she lowered her hand, shaking, from her mouth. Without letting go of the door handle, she took a step forward. We didn't break eye contact, standing there and staring at each other in silence for a long moment before she finally spoke. "How?" she stammered. "How did you get out of the ground?" I accidentally stayed in a love motel in Japan, but I won't make that mistake again. Written by Gdokim. While living in Chiba, Japan, I had a group of friends that I would often go out drinking with on the weekends. Well, one weekend in particular, I got really wasted and decided to call it a night. After saying my goodbyes, I hurried to the train station, only to discover that it had stopped running for the night. Now, there were several hotels nearby where a drunk person like me could crash for the night, but the fact I was on a tight budget limited my options. So I walked, or should I say stumbled, aimlessly for an hour searching. I actually got lost a few times, for a cheap place to stay when I accidentally came across the Furin Motel. From the outside, the Furin Motel looked old and run down, but once inside, I was surprised to see that it was actually in very good condition. As I headed for the front desk to check in, I noticed that there were several other guests waiting in line too. It must be a popular place, I thought to myself. Anyway, after I checked in, I decided to explore the motel. I had already sobered up, before going to my room, and noticed that it looked more like an onsen than a motel. There were 10 rooms in all, with each having some sort of theme to them, which I found pretty neat. There was even a penis-shaped rock in the center of the motel, which I found quite funny, but other than that, there was nothing else odd about the place. Anyway, I was beginning to feel tired and decided to go to my room. When I entered my room, I was amazed to see that it was styled in a romantic avant-garde fashion. The walls were pink and were adorned with beautiful paintings, giving it the feeling that you were in France. The bed, which was located in the center of the room, was one of those round beds that was fit for a queen like me. I plopped myself down on the bed and instantly fell asleep. Around 1 in the morning, I was awakened by the feeling of something touching my leg. I opened my eyes ever so slightly and saw that there was now a disembodied hand caressing my inner thigh. I watched in shock as the hand continued to inch its way up my thighs, eventually reaching my vaginal area, touching it, and causing me to writhe in pleasure. I could see as the hand slowly began to lift my skirt up and exposing everything, including my panties. That's when my eyes flew open. I let out a blood-curdling scream as I felt, but couldn't see something heavy fall on top of me. Using all my might, I pushed the invisible being off of me. Then I quickly fled the room. Running through the main part of the motel, I noticed that it no longer looked brand new. Now it looked dilapidated, like it had not been in business for years. As I continued to run away, I began to feel lightheaded and noticed everything around me was spinning. Eventually, I passed out. When I finally came to, I was back at the train station, lying on one of those benches on the platform. As soon as I got home, I did a search online for the Furin Motel and found that it was in fact a love motel which closed down in 2006. Although now, the Furin Motel is popular with urban explorers, the locals tend to stay away because they say it's haunted. Whether it's haunted or not, I don't know, but what I experienced was real. So a warning for all you single women who plan on staying at a love motel: never stay alone, or you might not be so lucky. I Hate This Place. Written by main character 1. I hate this place. r/NoSleep. I hate it. I hate you. All of you. Taking the time to read this because it lets you dream outside of your boring, monotonous lives. It lets you imagine, what if the monster in the closet were real? What would I do? You imagine you'd be the hero, even as you shit your pants because you're so terrified. You'd be the hero. You'd slay the monster. You'd protect the people that matter to you. You don't fucking get it. It's not some book. It's not an adventure where you get to save your friends from the evil beast. The villains don't wait for you to become powerful enough to fight back. There's no plot armor. You want to know how the story would end? You fucking die. All of you. your friends, your family. You fucking die, and no one tells your story. No one remembers you because they're dead too. No one makes you into a movie where you slay the beast with your flaming sword and save everyone and ride into the distant horizon because you're dead. You think I'm a dick. Maybe I am a dick. No, I am a dick, but I'm certainly not a hypocrite. I thought the same, that I was special, that I was the main character in some story, some fucked up story where the parents are abusive and there's no side characters. I was on my lone adventure, flying solo. Other people couldn't get me, couldn't understand my trauma, and I didn't let them try to. And then that changed. It wasn't some sudden love at first sight rom-com bullshit, granted. It was gradual. I began to rise up from the cesspit that was my childhood. Soon I had friends. I had people I cared about. Hell, I had a boyfriend. I was accepted. Suddenly there were more people in my story. And then, much more suddenly, they were erased. There wasn't a reason. No one was at fault. At least not that I know of. You want to know the fucked up part? I still don't know what actually happened. Fuck, I don't know if it actually happened. There's a decently sized part of my brain that wonders if it's just some coping mechanism I came up with to pack away my pain. If it's a coping mechanism, it's a really shitty one. We were having a dinner party. It wasn't some fancy soiree, just a bunch of friends hanging out with drugs and booze and food. This is usually the part where you write the conversations. What I said, what Charlie said, the funny joke that Ty said in response, how Samantha's tinkling laughter filled the room. You want to know what I remember? I remember that whatever cheese puffs Ty brought, they were really shitty. I remember the beer being subpar. I remember there was a stain right under Franco's pants that kind of looked like he pissed himself. I remember them screaming. I remember them going quiet. I remember Charlie's pleading. I remember his blood pooling under the bathroom door. I know I'm not special. I wasn't saved for a reason. I was some junkie that Charlie pulled off the streets and decided he would love. I didn't deserve it. I wish I died. For no particular reason, I got up to use the bathroom at 8:37. I suppose my reason was to urinate, but for no cosmic reason did I decide to empty my bladder at that particular moment. I flushed the toilet. Then I heard Samantha scream. I guess I can remember that piece of dialogue. "What the fuck?" Sadly, she was cut off when her throat was cut. That's what they told me. The cops. Her throat was slit, her head almost cut off. Something strange about it, though, was that she didn't die from it. I guess they can tell that somehow. She didn't die from blood loss. She died from drowning in her own blood. That's what it was like for all of them. Ty had his eyes gouged out. There was a smiley face on the table with them. One was bitten in half. I heard him screaming for a very long time before he finally went quiet. It was almost like they went one at a time, slowly suffering before they were extinguished. He died from a brain aneurysm. I say that, but what I mean is his head fucking exploded. No ballistic force, just sudden explosion. Franco went next. He was torn limb from limb. Slowly, too. I could hear as each tendon snapped. He never stopped screaming. Then it was Charlie's turn. After Franco's last breath, I heard him whimper. I heard him plead. He was the only one that did. And then I heard as his skin ripped apart. He didn't scream, but I could hear the sound of flesh being rended. I could hear his breathy wheezes as he slowly crawled to the bathroom door. I could hear his voice give out. I smelled the heavy tinge of blood in the air, and I could see it through the crack of the cupboard, pooling on the floor. That's right. As my friends and the love of my life were being murdered outside the door, I fucking hid. Doesn't matter if there was no hope of me living. I could have seen him. I could have died next to him. I could have said goodbye. I was dead when he met me, and he brought me back to life. And instead I hid in a fucking cupboard. His was the only body not there. Everyone else was accounted for. When the police finally arrived, he was nowhere to be seen. I don't know what happened. I heard him. I heard him die. I heard that thing walk out. Maybe it brought Charlie with him. Honestly, it doesn't matter. He's dead. At least to me. As far as it matters, he's dead. Everyone is. Hopefully I will be soon. I won't kill myself. Charlie would never forgive me. I know you're listening to this and thinking, wow, what a cool story. You think that because you think you're safe. I know none of you believe me. You still think what I said in the beginning. You think that nothing can happen to you. This place is fun for you because it's so unbelievable. Even as your heart beats faster as you come to the climax of the story, you know you're safe. What? At worst, you might have a nightmare or two. You aren't. You aren't safe. There's nothing you can do about it except hope whatever is out there won't come for you. That's what it comes down to. Luck. Maybe you're lucky. Or maybe you're already dead.